Okay, we are live on Modern Commerce. Excited to do this one today. We are without Casey, so I'm going to be acting as host and producer. So if things are a little rough,
You're kind of big time now, bro.
you know what,
You got
host
a
slash producer.
It's like Joe Rogan level.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he's got his own. He pays people for that kind of thing. I don't.
Oh man.
Anyway, but we have no Casey, but we do have Cody, another one of those like white guy, C names. So basically the same thing. Cody Wittick from the Kynship Agency, founder of the Kynship Agency. Here to talk influencer marketing, giving us the 2022 playbook. But more interestingly, former ex-college basketball player. I'm a hoops guy myself. So I know you guys, anyone who's watching this probably came for influencer marketing, but we're just going to talk about basketball. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Cody, tell us about yourself. Give me your background.
Background?
Yeah.
I just had so many ideas on what sarcastic answers I was going to give.
Oh yeah, you hit me with your joke then first. Yeah.
No, I can't. It's inappropriate. Previously starting Kynship, you already mentioned my agency. Kynship started in 2019. So be 4 years in January. Before that, I was ran influencer marketing in a brand called Kalo, silicone wedding ring company, and that's where I ran the influence marketing program. Cut my teeth in influence marketing.
Were you in house there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool.
So that was kind of my background. That was my only gig.
Nice. Kalo rings. That was like they really launched in the heyday of that like silicone ring movement.
They kind of created the market.
Right. Yeah. I think they were kind of first to market on that. And it showed, because if you tried to launch a silicone ring brand now, it would be tough. Well, cool. Yeah. And Cody, obviously, tell us about Kynship. Tell us, you do what do they call them? Authority boosters, or I don't know. There's some word for it. Tell us why you're actually qualified to talk about influencer marketing.
I mean, outside of my Kalo background, started the agency with my co-founder Taylor, and we launched that in 2019, like I said, and we've just been doing influence marketing ever since, for D2C e-commerce brands with a physical product. And yeah, we've worked with brands such as M&M's and Traeger grills and Native, all the way down to your startups that people haven't heard of and everything in between. So
yeah,
having the D2C e-commerce space, and yeah. So
yeah, let's do this. We're gonna get into it. I got a bunch of questions for you. I'm a paid guy. I'm not necessarily an influencer guy. Before we get into it, I'm gonna pop it over to Casey, who is live from a remote location. He's not really. It's pre-recorded. He's gonna tell us about today's sponsor for the episode.
Hey, ModCom, this episode was brought to you by Pencil. I'm a creative strategist at the agency that John and I work at. If you happen to be a creative strategist, or you're just having a hard time rolling out enough new creatives for testing, then I have the perfect solution for you. It's trypencil.com. Over at Pencil, the AI will help you determine what your best performers are. It'll even break it down into what elements of those best performers are helping making those ads go. And it'll also take those elements and create whole new ads for you to push live straight from their platform right over to Facebook and IG. So go to trypencil.com if you want to use this, and use the promo code ModCom15 to save 15% off of any paid plan they have over there. You can always start with a free plan. Go ahead. Actually, I recommend it even, but we're confident you're going to want to upgrade as soon as you try it out. So just remember to go to trypencil.com, use the promo code ModCom15 to save 15% off of any plan. And thank you for tuning in to Modern Commerce.
And we are back. Thanks, Casey. Kicking it back to us. That was the first. This is low key. I probably shouldn't even say anything. That was the first John producer mistake. I took the end of the episode read. That one was supposed to be. There's a different one for the middle episode.
Dang.
Whatever. I know it. I'm fired. Fired as
onward
producer.
and upward.
I know. Well, cool, Cody. So first question I have for you, and I think the main thing is, I mean, there was a time, I think when you were at Kalo, you probably just paid people for posting, right? Like it was just like, hey, pay them to post and it's profitable. And that was an alliteration. Pay them to post, you'll make money doing it, and just reach out to some people and ask them, hey, how much you want? And I think that can you still do that? I guess the question I really have is how has influencer marketing changed over the past year, or stretch it out 2 years, whatever. But sort of a sub question I have there is, can you still do that? Can you still make things work? Just like outreach, pay for post, really simple.
I don't think so. Are there people that probably do it maybe at scale? I think they can, and they do, but I don't think it's the most beneficial or best use of your money to do. So, I mean, how has influencer marketing changed? I would say it's more focused on content than distribution, which is a good thing because I think it's the number one value asset of influencers is their content creation ability, especially when we're talking about micros. I mean, there's a lot of nuance to like everything that I'm saying. Like there's different tiers of influencers. There's different platforms of influencers. There's different approaches. So you mentioned pay for posts. Does it work still today like it does 10 years ago? No, but it depends on what you're also saying as a platform basis. Because I would still say paying for posts makes sense over time. But on a cold outreach, if I'm like your everyday run-of-the-mill D2C brand tuning in right now, I wouldn't spend my resources, time, investment, budget on a cold outreach, pay for posts, pay them to post on Instagram. Could it maybe make sense eventually over time for consistent influencers? I would say, yeah, like it can. The question just becomes like, what's the best system to produce the outcome that I desire, which is like most brands say long-term community. They want consistent content for their ad accounts. They want organic awareness going mass live while still maintaining a great relationship. I don't think pay for post is that system to produce that outcome.
Right.
So again, it's just like, what outcomes are you really driving for? Are you driving for just a bunch of one-off posts with people? Then yeah, you can kind of get still that today. I just don't think it's the most effective use of your dollar.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting having the pod and I don't. Do you have a pod as well? I can't remember. Look at me, not doing my. I knew you did. I second guessed myself.
I'm gonna hit this leave studio button right here.
You're out. Yeah, and then I'm just gonna talk for the rest of the time about something I don't know about. Tell us your pod. Plug it now.
It's called the Influence Marketing Blueprint.
Okay, so everybody go where you everywhere. You everywhere.
Everywhere, bro. Come on, it's 2022.
You listen to podcasts. If you listen into this, you listen on YouTube. So go find them on YouTube, because I don't distribute because that's way too smart for me and it takes too much time. Yeah. Having a pod though has actually changed my outlook on this a little bit because like I've always been an advertiser. I've never been a creator, and I don't know. I'm still very tenuously a creator now. But like if a brand outreached to me, a company outreached to me and just said, "Hey, I love your show. Like, how much is it to do, whatever your podcast reads or your, ads or whatever?" I probably would tell them more. You know what I mean? Like, I'd be like, well, I don't know you. I don't actually use your product or so I'm going to have to like, there's going to be a lot of work for me to like come up with things to say without like outright recommending and saying, "Hey, we totally use this." You know what I mean? And plus they came to me, right? So I'm like, well, all right, here's my opportunity to like make some money as a creator. And I'm not even trying to make a full-time living as a creator. Yeah. Right. Like a lot of these influencers, that's like what they really want to do is just only be creators. So I think that like kind of outreach model, like you said, it worked really well. Well, I've seen, so we still have a brand that one of their biggest traffic sources is they pay for swipe ups. Just really simply put, but they have refined it's all in-house team members and they have refined the process for that. Like it is so good over multiple years now. Like they have like really good ways of finding people. They know exactly what questions to ask. And like, they know, that response means that one won't work. That response means, it's worth a test. And and they do really well paying for swipe ups. And then it also has to be combined with some kind of like store event, like a new product drop or sale or something like that.
Yeah. Right. I've had lots of conversations with Sean Frank at Ridge Wallet because he does a lot of
he still does that
posts. TikTok, YouTube. We've had a lot of healthy back and forth. I think we've met in the middle that we both agree that we're almost there, or at least, I mean, obviously he probably thinks he's 100%, I'm 100%. So we agreed to disagree on some things, but he has, I mean, we're talking $50 million, $100 million brand. He has a team of 12 in influence marketing. He spends 300 to 500K a month on influencer. So I compare it to day trading a lot. Like when you, if you're just paying one influencer one time and expecting sales, you're worse than a day trader. Actually, you're trying to beat the market without actually, at least day trading on stocks, you have past performance to go off of. That influencer, you have no idea.
Like, I mean, unless you have hundreds of data points of benchmarks from other influencers you've outreach to.
But you still don't know on that particular influencer.
You still don't know on them for sure.
So but when I think of Ridge Wallets, like if you're going to spend that much coin on influencer for pay for post, like you're almost becoming a diversified portfolio in some degree, where I can see how some of them hit. But I'm sure there's a lot without knowing their numbers that don't. But they're afforded that opportunity because not everyone listening right now is a $100 million brand. So
and there's a weird mid-range sort of space in like direct to consumer, or there's like weird use cases where like some of, and you've probably worked with, you know, all levels or whatever, but like, if you're working with a Traeger grills or an M&M's, it's their objectives around influencer marketing are actually going to be like a little bit different than if you're working with a, let's say sub $10 million e-commerce brand, direct to consumer native brand. When you're a direct to consumer native brand and you're at 50 million to 100 million, it's actually like you need some channel diversification. Like, influencer marketing isn't nearly as profitable as running Google ads or Facebook ads, but like you're not able to scale those anymore at the levels that you need. Right. So, and then the other one, like my brand that I own, I don't really talk much about, but we use it. Like we use the outreach pay for post model because we have monthly recurring revenue, and it's really sticky, right? So we can just afford high CPAs. So same kind of thing. It's a really risky niche. Like we have a hard time advertising on platforms. Our ads get banned a lot. We're always, sleeping a little stressed out that we're going to wake up and ad account's going to be disabled. So to us, even if the CPA on influencer marketing is pretty high on like pay for post, it's worth it to have it as like a traffic source. You know what I mean? Just say like it's a pure traffic source. It's not as good as a CPA as some of these other traffic sources, but it's worth it to us. So that if any one of our, 4 main channels goes down tomorrow, we're still okay. I mean, I think there are use cases, but I've seen the same thing, at least outside looking in, that the pay for post thing is just, it's not the gangbusters it was, pre 2015.
No.
So today, and you kind of hit on this a little bit, you said content over distribution. Elaborate on that. So what is today the biggest benefit of using influencers?
I'd say generally it's their content creation ability.
Like they are good at making videos that engage people for that platform.
Throw out like the LeBron James of the world. If you ever like the 0.00001% of brands that have the opportunity to work with that level of tier of influencer, talking about your everyday run of the mill influencer, probably what people come to their mind when they think influencer, they're thinking the 50,000, 150,000, 200,000 influencer. They've built their following on their content, not on their clout. So they didn't get famous for something else, and then they just have followers because of that. Exactly. Yeah. So they weren't on The Bachelor. Stuff like that, the easy one. So when I think of that, and then also just the way that we approach and think of influencers is because the content is the main value add. Not saying their distribution, their audience is not attractive. It's just lower on the totem pole than most people think. And so, you want to work with creators, influencers for that primarily. Not that there's other reasons, but generally from like overarching, that's their number one value asset. Right.
So that's interesting because I think, I think that if you think about, so I think that maybe the question there is like, how do you find the right influencers? Right. Because, I think that what becomes harder, then one of the nice things about the pay for post model is that it's very clear. Right. And the KPIs and the way we measure, and like if I'm going to go invest in sort of like an influencer initiative as a brand, it's like, okay, well, that influencer initiative is going to result in traffic. It's going to result in hopefully some sales and stuff like that. But if it's like, okay, I'm mainly paying for content, I guess, like, how does that look? Like, do people, I mean, do you approach influencers and ask them, like ask to pay them to create content? How do you find the right influencer to brand match? I know you said there are different tiers. So like unpack that, I guess, high level question with many
that was a lot of questions in one.
Sleeper,
Which one do you want me to
lots of
answer?
sleeper questions inside this one, but high level, you know, how do you find the right influencers for the brand?
Okay. So it's really two questions. It's how do you find influencers and how do you find the right ones when you get there?
Right.
So I'll break that down. How do you find influencers? There's several free tools that you have at your disposal. So on TikTok Creator Marketplace, free.
Yeah.
Instagram itself, you can hit a drop down arrow on any particular profile. It's going to be algorithm picked influencers that are all similar. And then there's Instagram for creators, or what used to be called Facebook Brands Collabs Manager from Facebook. That's Facebook and Instagram influencers. Those are free tools. And then you have your pay for discovery tools there's a million out there. We would recommend Aspire. That's like the one that we go to.
A little free there.
So out of that, that's where you find them. But then how do you pick
easy
them
and
when you
easy
get
enough
there?
to find them? You know, I think Van Oaks, and you know, if you know Van Oaks, but he used heavy influencers back when he was like the CMO of Diesel Brothers or Diesel Power Gear. And one of the things he says is he's like, you should know, like, you should kind of know who a lot of them are, right? Like, different if you're an agency. If you're an agency, you might not know, but a lot of times the brands will know, right? So if you're starting from scratch, like, you know, you probably, somebody there knows who, like, where to start.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, like you said, go to those profiles, use the IG drop down, use TikTok Creator Marketplace. Anyway, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
You're good. Well, then I would just say, like, as far as like a identification scorecard, there's really three things that you should be looking at. Well, actually, like, kind of five is like content creation ability. Like I said, it's their number one asset. So I would look at their video content creation ability. So you can assess this on their reel content, their TikTok content, their YouTube channel is a great way. What you're really looking for is how comfortable, creative, charismatic they are on camera. And then content frequency. How frequent are they posting video content? Comfortable on camera. Brand fit, basically, like, are you proud that they would you be proud that they represent your brand? Are they active? And then just analytics, likewise, like video views, fake followers, engagement rate, like things like that. So I would take all that into consideration. Again, number one, for everyday run-of-the-mill brand listening to this, D2C, you have a physical product, I would be looking at influencers for their video content creation ability, number one, because their repurpose or their distribution on their own feed is going to be limited by the social algorithms. Right. Whereas with you, the brand owner, have a lot of different ways that you can use that content to actually make real revenue. So you need repurposability, and that means that content needs to be good. Yeah, to repurpose.
That triggered a question for me, and so before I ask it, I'm going to ask. I think we have a couple comments here. So Albert M said, I actually took off action on your stuff, reaching out to 20 influencers a day. Attaboy, Albert, look at that. Love the action. Shipped orders as well. Now waiting for content. Cool. So yeah. And I was just going to say, we got some live comments. I have a question, but if you do have a question as you're listening to this, as you're listening to Cody kind of unpack influencer marketing, pop it in the comments, in the live comments. I will pull it up. Like, we don't get so many. It's not like there's thousands of comments. I'm going to miss it or whatever. Like, pop it in the live comments. And I'll pull it up and, like, yeah, we'll talk about it. We'll unpack it. Like, this is your chance, right? If you want to implement an influencer program, to ask, like, maybe the best in the game. So, but my question, maybe definitely the best in the game.
Just a slight,
I mean, I don't know the other players. So maybe that speaks volumes right there. I don't even know anyone else who plays. So my question that I have though is, you said analytics, and maybe this is like a boring question. Maybe this is the one that everyone didn't have. But specifically, what are the metrics? Like, is there benchmarks that people should know in terms of like, this is the engagement rate they should have, or this is this, or, you know, how you find fake followers, and how do you track that stuff?
Yeah. Analytics wise, I would just be looking at engagement rate 1% or above.
Meaning if they post 1% of their total followers are engaging in some way or another.
Yeah, or above.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then as far as fake follower count, I mean, you don't need a tool for that. It's just extremely high or low combination of likes and comments compared to follower count. So
Gotcha.
20,000 followers, 20,000 likes. Nah.
Yeah.
Fake. 20,000 followers, 30 likes, 0 comments, every single post. No.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, so you can kind of tell just like going through the first 5 or 6, you know, things. And primarily what people think of is just on Instagram. Those are some of the
and are those metrics, do you apply those across all platforms, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, everything, or is that like, are those Instagram specific ones?
Those are the easiest to tell on Instagram. I mean, TikTok is like, I think you can be pretty confident that it's focused on content. It's not focused on organic metrics, because you have this amount of followers, you get this amount of views. I mean, we've seen that time and time again, right? Like someone with no followers has a video just go viral.
That's the point of that platform, is that
exactly
it's a content like driven.
On TikTok, I'd want to see like consistent growth. And you can see this on TikTok Creator Marketplace. You can see consistent growth, and they're posting all the time on the platform. And I think that's why the algorithm the way it is people are addicted to like the potential for virality. So they're constantly posting content. But those are some of the quantitative metrics that I'd be looking at. Cool.
Albert hopping back in. These lives always have like,
he's loving it.
These lives always have one hero that's just like, you know, you're my guy. And Albert, you were my guy today. Can you share, what do you do after you get the content? I'm thinking we could bring down the cost even more if we edit and make variations and throw it into dynamic DCTs. He said, if you're watching, you're like, what does that mean? Dynamic creative tests in Facebook. So specifically using dynamic ads with the different variations. Thoughts. I mean, in this, we're now getting into ad buying, or he asked an ad buying question, which, you know, that's what you're driving toward here. It's like, you're going to get content and you're going to put some paid dollars behind it, which I know you guys do.
Probably give like a little quick overview of where Albert's going with this is like, so our agency does seeding campaigns at scale. So we outreach to 500 influencers, all no strings attached. We want to put the product into their hands. A certain percentage of them opt in. You want to see a minimum of 20%. Out of the 20% that get product, you expect 30% to post 2 or 3 times. So Albert's asking, okay, obviously he's not at our scale as an agency, but if he's going to reach out to 100 influencers, 20 of them are going to get a product, 6 are going to end up posting 2 to 3 times. That's 15 assets. I know this is like super quick math. So his question is, how do you get the content? What do you do with it? You want to reformat it for all placements on Facebook. So if it's a 9x16 story, you want to get into 1x1 for all placements. Super important. Don't want to go manual. And then you want to caption the video content. So you can use tools like Capwing, super low cost. I'm sure there's others that might even be free. But Capwing's we used to use that all the time. Now we use Adobe. They also do reformatting too. And then our agency does different creative iterations on video content as well. So I'd still look at like different 3-second start times, all within mind. And Albert's kind of hitting on DCTs, but I won't even go down that road yet unless you want to
unpack it deep. No, it's Albert, if you want to elaborate on the question, you definitely can. We legitimately, I mean, and this falls into this. I did, and maybe I'll put like in the post. We're live right now, but in the like afterwards, maybe I'll link this up.
You don't have your producer.
Yeah, I don't have my producer, so and I wasn't ready for Albert's question. He's not a plant. So we did a whole episode, like an hour-long episode on like creative testing and like how you determine how many creatives you do. It's just like so the thing you're asking about getting into what kind of campaign and all of that, we didn't unpack that even there, but like that's a deeper well, I think, than, you know, what you do. Like, but yeah, I mean, the basics: reformat, make sure it works for all placements, and then move into some kind of whatever creative testing methodology you use for your account, more or less, right?
He's obviously a fan. Heard us talk about DCT. So
I know. Look at Casey. Where you at, dude? Nice flub on the wrong ad read. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Just putting me on blast on the live. Cool. So you talked about this a little bit. You guys do seeding campaigns.
yeah.
Let's backpedal just a second and unpack that. What is a seeding campaign, and what does it? How do you do it? Like, all of that.
Seeding, basic definition is sending out free product to influencers, but now I have to actually define it even more. It's without asking for anything in return.
Yeah.
So it's built on giving, not asking. So the basic premise is like everybody wants advocates, true advocacy from influencers, but they pay for it. When you actually relate to it on a customer journey basis, like you can't do it with customers. It's illegal. You can't pay for reviews. But with influencers, we think we can. So you're paying for fake advocacy at the end of the day on a cold basis. So with seeding, you're letting your brand and your product be the focus of the interaction versus money or a contract. So if I'm cold outreaching to John, it's John. Hey, I think you're a great brand fit. Love to put the product in your hands. This is who we are. Super short sentence. Let me know your address. We'll get it right out to you. No strings attached.
Mm-hmm.
It's a yes or no question, basically at its core. Like, do you want the product? Yes or no? So you're opting in based on receiving the product based on that interest alone. And then for our agency, there's like a ton of follow-up after that, but
yeah, maybe just briefly, how should you follow up, make sure they got it, ask what they think type of thing?
Yeah, you're going to be able to know that through Shopify. If you send it out through a back-end order,
right,
you're going to have tracking. After 3 days, I would follow up. And again, benchmark wise is like you should see at least 30% of people that you send out product to end up posting for free without you even asking. So you still get the post out of it, and you know that they're a genuine lover of the brand and product at this point. Now that relationship, how it develops is like really up to you. Get them on an affiliate program, UGC, like all that stuff. It's just, how do you want to give your brand as a first impression to influencers? I think this is the best approach on a cold outreach basis.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it.
Yeah.
Do you do your podcast, John?
Do you do any follow up to those who aren't part of the 30% that post, or do you just leave them alone?
Yeah. No, we do. We'll ask how they're liking the product for product feedback, and potentially that might trigger a post if they haven't already.
Right. So do you think that 30% benchmark is adjusted by that? So I'm just being clear on the benchmark, right? Like because you guys are following up to those who don't post, that probably pumps up that benchmark a little bit, you think? Or
that 30% is just from the initial outreach and people that get product. So
gotcha.
That's a good question though, on like
So
delta there.
Right. Yeah. So for you guys, it's a little higher a lot of the time because you are following up with those, and that might trigger a post. And then I'm sure some say, well, I didn't like it because of this, or they just don't respond.
Yeah. And that's valuable feedback.
Yeah.
Like you could waste a lot of time if all the influencers are thinking the same exact thing. Like, this sucks.
Yeah.
You're
Do you
just
ever see
wasting
anybody use it as like a go-to-market type, like testing the market to see if, hey, does the product actually solve the problem that I think it does?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it can be very valuable in that sense, even if it's just on a product feedback basis. At the end of the day, you just need to get it. And like, if you can afford it and you have COGS, then that is beneficial to your business. Mm-hmm. Then I would be dedicating a lot of time towards getting the product into a lot of different hands.
Yeah. So I don't want to like talk about the outlier too much, but really quick, you brought up a great point. If you have COGS, what about brands that do have high ticket products? Let's say furniture, or I don't know, other high ticket products, mountain bikes, all kinds of stuff like that.
You just have to be more particular on who you're going to send product to. I mean, if you can afford one a month, I mean, all you do is take your COGS times shipping. that's one order for free, times that about how many influencers, that's your seeding budget.
Right.
So,
I mean,
but
here's
yeah,
the
like
thing, if they post and it doesn't take many sales, right? Or they might just tell someone about it, you know, and then you get a sale from it. Like,
yeah, it depends on how high ticket. I mean, if you're sending out a sauna, probably you can only afford to do one, and maybe it's probably to a celebrity at that like that tier of influencer. But
it's going to be really.
If you're $100 cogs, it's still cheaper than pay for post.
Yeah, and what was in my mind was like what if it was like a gun that you put around like a hoop, that like a shooting gun, something like that, right? Like I get ads for those all the time. I'm like, I'm not even a coach, I just like basketball a lot.
Hooper.
Like, yeah, let me just drop $5,000 on one of those. Put it in my truck. Anyway, yeah. So okay, so that's approaching influencers, that's seeding. Like, I think so at this point, you know, the full cost that you are into a campaign essentially is the cost of resources, right? So your team or agency, if you're smart and you're using Kynship, so them and the cost of goods sold and shipping. So there is some cost already, like, going in. But your sort of point here is that it's like you're not necessarily looking for an ROI on those 30% who post for free. What you're looking for is content, and to utilize that content to get better ad costs. So how are you all measuring? I'm sure this is something that like you guys had to really unpack when you made this shift from pay for post, because it's like we were already running at, like, you have to measure the delta of how much better did ads get, I'm guessing. So yeah, unpack that a little bit. What are the KPIs here? You've given some great KPIs and benchmarks in terms of like how many you outreach to, how many respond, how many post, but what are the ROI KPIs?
I mean, the first thing is that you, the brand listening, are always in desperate need of consistent content that's going to break through the noise. So that's like the number one pain point that I would say just generically is for most brands today, is that they constantly need a content ad creative. So we're really looking at it like on a price per asset basis. So if that's
an interesting point. So you guys look at it compared to like, well, how much would it cost for us to go buy the content from a shop or something like that? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at a price per unique asset basis. I'm looking at a price per asset basis. So that's really, I mean, if you have like $25 cogs and you send it out to 100 influencers, that's $2,500. But if you get 100 assets, like now you're like, tell me where you're getting a cheaper price per asset in the market.
Right. And they're good asset. They're good and unique assets. Yes. You know what I mean? They're not cuts, iterations of the same thing. So
that's really what we're looking at on from like a seeding basis, is just like, how does that price per asset compare to where else you're spending to acquire content? A production shoot, unique studio shoot, the Billows of the world, the, in-house graphic designer. You're just comparing like how many hours does it take that person to create ads? What's the price per asset there? So that's initially how we're analyzing it. And then once we get into the ad account, then it's just like, it's CPA. Content?
Yeah. Do you have a benchmark for price per unique asset? But that probably depends on the price of the product, how many people you're seeding, that kind of thing. So that's probably a little less benchmarkable.
I'd say like a generic, I would just say compared against what you're getting in the market, like a generic, like high quality asset that you're going to pay for at a minimum is probably going to be like $500. Right. If you do like studio shoot type stuff. Yeah. We're getting like $60 to $120. That's including our fee. I mean, take out our agency fee, like you're in the 20s to 30s.
Yeah, you're even making your own stuff and your own fees into there. That's interesting.
So even if it's like a high cog item and it's $250 per asset, like this is now 50% of what you'd pay in other
price
places.
Per unique. Do you guys in that calculation of price per unique asset? Oh, you probably can't do this. That's actually partially liquidated, which you can't even measure because it's not like when you send them that, you give them an affiliate link or anything like that. But some of them who do post, that probably drives some sales. So that $120 per unique asset is actually a little bit less because you've already liquidated a little bit. You probably haven't made a profit, most likely. But yeah, you've already liquidated a little bit. So that's an important thing to bring up. backtrack in just a second. Got to answer Albert's question, man. He's like the hero of the show. So
you should have him on next week.
I know. Just hit me up. Let's get you on here, man. Talking about DCTs and Charlie. He follows all the people I've had on. So do you indirectly ask them to post on the follow-up message?
It depends on what indirect. No, we don't. We just say, how are you liking the product? And I think that's, yeah, you just want to be careful. Like you outreach basically saying, hey, no strings attached, no expectation for you to post. You can't follow up and say, hey, when you post, say these 3 things, or here's our hashtag to use when you post. So you gotta be careful.
Cool. So in this, I don't have this. Well, I guess this is kind of a question. So how does this scale? But before we get into the answer of like, how do you scale this up? I want to talk about, because we've talked a lot about seed, you seed, you get unique assets, you put them in the ad account, you run ads, and then you just run an ad senator. But I want to ask, like, how do you extend the relationship with the influencer, right? So, hey, this person makes content that slaps, it kills it in our ad account. Like, how do we get more of this from them? Do you move toward like just paying them for content? Do you move toward making them an affiliate? Like, do you guys handle that part of the relationship, or is that kind of more brand side usually?
We don't necessarily manage. I mean, we'll manage some of the messaging and inviting them to the affiliate program or things like that. But that'll be one next step. I just view seeding as the foundation. Yeah. You have your content that you're getting into paid media. And then after that, it just kind of builds up on the pyramid. So I think affiliate program just makes so much sense. You're not paying for upfront organic posting, but as long as you give them a commission that's motivating and you're constantly iterating on that, reward people for what they're going to continue to drive. You mentioned like the monthly UGC contract. Yeah, I would see like the people that are top performers. I would start to get them on monthly UGC. I would just completely let them be the creative director. I won't even give them a creative brief at that point. You can, I mean, if you're just starting to say like, oh, past success equals future success on a certain type of creative, which I don't necessarily believe. It might work for a little bit, but I would just be very open to pivoting quickly. So those are some of the next steps.
So in a sense, like launching, growing the initiative and sticking with it snowballs, right? Because like there's an ascendance, right? It's like, seeding's at the base level of the pyramid, responding, like sending the product, people post, and then you're running ads, and then some of those ads do well, and then you're moving those people into a repeated contract. So now now we have some proven winning influencers that are giving us content on a monthly basis. And then the longer you do that, the more of those you get, the more people you're sending, and you're still testing a lot of new and unique assets. So I'm starting to see the picture. I get it.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the advantage of seeding too, is like you're letting the cream rise to the top. The people that really love and rally around the product and produce awesome content get leverage in paid media, and they're probably going to be producing the most authentic content, and that's going to perform the best. And those are people you want to work with long-term anyways.
So my next question really is, how do you scale this? But we're not talking about a traffic channel. We're talking about a content generation channel. So I'm guessing that it actually, like, the amount you have to scale it is very, it like basically just goes hand in hand with how much you're scaling your ads, right? So if you're outreaching, whatever, I'm guessing that you guys have some KPIs around this, or your packages are built around this, or, if you're building in-house team and you got one person now and he's outreaching, or she is outreaching, 500 people, what would be the unit of time that would be realistic for one person? 500 people a week, a day, every 6 months. Okay. So 100 people a month, something like that. If you want to pump it up and get more stuff because your ad accounts are scaling and you need more content, then you're hiring another person, you're doing more outreach. I mean, is that pretty much how it is? Do you ever exhaust the pool of influencers? I guess that's, I mean, if
you're in the fitness industry, then you're not.
There's more of them popping up every day than you're outreaching to.
Yeah. So like, depending on the category, if you're like very, very niche, like potentially, But I mean, I would rather hit that than not hit it, as far as like reaching the limit, so to speak, on the category or exhausting the category.
Right.
And then I think, well, then there's room to maybe test another category, because you might not know through outreaching that certain people are rallying around the product that you want to expect based on the industry.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I mean, I think you are right. Like, you're scaling what works and putting resources behind it. I want to be clear. Influencer marketing is not a one-person job. If you're expecting to have this influencer pyramid on one person's hands, and I'm speaking from experience. I was at Kalo. I was a one-person show. I could not do all those different things. So
yeah,
I was seeding, and then I was negotiating with big-time celebrity talent, and everything in between was kind of just like sporadic where I found time.
Right.
So as you build up, you're just going to have to continue to expand the team. Just like your one media buyer is not going to be able to run your ad account forever, and be responsible for coming up with creative, and stuff like that, so.
Yeah. And that leads right into my next question. How do you build this machine? Right. I mean, if you're smart, you hire Kynship. But let's say you wanted to build it yourself.
I love the plugs.
Yeah,
you want to build it yourself?
Yeah. Let's say you want to build it yourself. What does this team look? I mean, you've built this, like, what are the different roles? Like, is it, hey, kind of intern level person can be doing outreach? Like, tell me that.
Yeah, I think you can do this pretty cost effectively. You can hire overseas contractors. You can have interns that are doing just the outreach portion, as long as there's training involved. But I would say, like, there's certain things that can be automated through tools, like even outreach, like there's reply.io, or there's mail meter. There's all these different things that can automate email outreach to a degree. At the end of the day, though, it can't be completely automated. This is like a more human than every other marketing channel. So I think as you start getting into like the hundreds of influencers that you're outreaching to, and you start getting into like, hey, these 30, 60, 90 influencers are opting in and like loving the product and brand and wanting to take next steps, then you're going to need someone fully dedicated to the affiliate program and ambassador program. And that's probably like, you can start getting into like a 2 to 4 person team, and those don't even have to be full-time employees. But I would say like 1 to 2, especially as you scale, you're going to need a full-time employee to oversee the process. And I won't even touch on like the capstone of the pyramid, but well, I guess
the capstone. Yeah,
the capstone is like the flag bearer, like your big macro face of the brand type person. Someone that sticks the flag in the ground and says like, I'm going to represent Nike or Gymshark or whatever the case is.
What does that look like? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you didn't want to unpack that, but now you teased it.
Because people get so distracted by the big macros and think it's going to like change their business overnight.
Right.
Unless you're a $20 million brand and above, you shouldn't even be entertaining that. Like, I shouldn't even be thinking like Bridge Wallets of the world. They can start entertaining that. Like the Hex Clads of the world, they're working with, what's his name? The high level
Gordon
chef.
Ramsay.
Yeah. So yeah, do that. Like that can really drive a lot of revenue when you have a face of your brand like that. Like that can get you into retail partnerships. Like that's huge. That was the same thing for Kalo. And they were a $40 million brand. Yeah.
And in all honesty, I mean, you brought up HexClad, so we had an episode with them. They talked about how that Gordon Ramsay relationship developed, and a lot of times those kinds of relationships, when they're good, they happen, right? Like they're not like an active effort. You know what I mean? Like it's like that person might already use the stuff or whatever, right? And that's what happened with him is he reached out to them, or his agent or whatever.
Yep.
His manager reached out to them. And so we're creating more work for Casey. He's going to link that up too, or put a card over this and post, so you guys can go watch the HexClad interview. But yeah, I appreciate it. So I mean, the positions essentially, like if we're looking at it like a team, right? The positions are, you've got your person who's outreaching, and their job is prospect new people and reach out to them. And then you got your person who's
managing those relationships that are highly effective and top performers.
Gotcha. And that's maybe a little bit higher level person. Probably doesn't need to be too high level though. I mean, I'm just maybe like, what kind of person is that? Is that like a talent person? a professional? Or
I think it needs to be
it's just someone who's organized.
I think it needs to be a full-time employee, because if I'm me at Kalo, like it was highly effective for those athletes and professional people and high-level tier influencers to like know that like, hey, I don't have a relationship with Kalo. I have a relationship with Cody. And like there's that human element. So you need someone full-time, and you need someone to manage, like oversee the person that's going to be in charge of seating. So, and that person could probably still maintain as you move up and be in charge of like the ambassadors and like people on their website and stuff like that. So
yeah, got it. So tell me what the what's the feedback loop look like with, because the other team member that we didn't really mention is like a media buyer person, like actually executing these inside ad accounts. You can maybe say that's really a member of a different team, but you know, if we're slicing and dicing, but most non-marketing people wouldn't. They'd be like, it's all the marketing team. What's the feedback loop look like for them? I mean, do they give feedback, or is it basically like, well, because we're sourcing this content in a way where we're not really directing them and giving them briefs, you know, you just test it, tell us what works, and then we'll try and develop a relationship with that person more?
Yeah. Depends on your strategy. I mean, if you're what we do, which is we launch every single piece of creative through DCTs and cost caps, then there's not really a feedback loop. It's just like, here's all the content, get it live. If you have a different philosophy, then yeah, there is going to be like hey, can we get XYZ type of content? And I think there's room for that. It sounds like I'm obviously biased because I am. But I think there's room for that. Like at the end of the day, more creative is better. Like if you have more to play with, I'm sure you would agree.
Even if you don't use it all, it's still better to have it than not have it.
Yeah. Which is like the opposite of most brands' problem. They don't have it. So yeah, I think that is a constant conversation too on like what is working and when the content's coming in and getting that live right away. So yeah, you need like a paid media specialist to be involved, heavily involved, or at least in the know. They're weekly meetings together.
And I would go so far as to say that they need to be bought, like the whole team all across. And this is true of like the, you know, whether it's influencer, like creative strategist to media buyer relationship as well. You know, within like that's kind of what I'm more familiar with. The thing they really need to be on the same page about is, what is the strategy for getting this into the ad account and getting it tested and benchmarking it and stuff like that, right? So if you hired a media buyer at Kynship and you're like, hey, as an agency, our philosophy is we test every single piece of creative and we use this kind of structure to do that. And that person was like, I don't really buy into that as a creative testing, like sort of premise. That just relationship wouldn't work. You know what I mean? Like they'd be constantly just doing something that they're like, this isn't going to work for this ad account. You know what I mean? And so it just wouldn't work. So that's the main thing, I think, is that like those two need to be on the same page. And even if they're not on the same page, they need to be able to kind of come to the right page together. Right. So last question I really have on team is, do you start to specialize like across channels, right? So do you have like specialist teams in terms of prospecting, seeding people, or relationship management people across Facebook, IG, YouTube? I mean, to me, I think YouTube's maybe a little bit different beast, and maybe, I don't know if you guys do it, but Facebook, IG, YouTube, and TikTok, right? Like, do you specialize these teams and people across different channels, or is it like more like, no, you make them like an expert on influencer marketing or on whatever their job function is, and then they pull it across channels?
I think for most brands listening right now, you don't need to get like channel specific. I think just find the best people and try to get them the product into their hands and identify real advocates. But it's interesting, as you scale, like you probably do need, I guess
that's what I'm asking for those ones that do scale up and they are running scaled ads on all those channels I said, and they are looking for influencer content or creator content on all those channels. Like, I like when I bring YouTube into the mix, I say creator content instead of influencer content, because I'm like, I mean, I'm a creator. But yeah, I mean, when they start bringing those other channels into the mix, like, I guess that's what I'm asking for those more scaled up brands that have a more scaled up influencer approach. Does it typically look like channel specialist teams, or what does that team usually look like when it's 6 people or whatever? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you just build out the seeding team at that point through channel. You're just
gotcha.
You have a dedicated person specifically outreaching to YouTubers, or negotiating deals with YouTubers, that type of thing. But I think it's interesting. Again, is it generating real revenue for you? I think like the 3 ways you judge the channel is: are you growing the pool of people that love your product? Are you populating your content library? And then are you generating sales?
Right.
If all those 3 are yes, then keep investing.
Yeah, keep going. Yeah, I mean, look, easiest way to like kind of execute quickly is just say, where are you already running ads? Like maybe just focus the strategy there.
Great question.
I do know some brands that run like exclusively on TikTok or primarily on TikTok. Like they were born on TikTok. Got kids coming in.
Hey,
what's up? After this, okay.
Can you get shake and
Yeah. After this, okay. And can I have those scissors also? Okay, bye.
didn't lock the door.
Nice. Yep. Forgot to lock the door. Classic. Another one. That's not even, I can't even blame Casey for that. It's a remote podcast. Anyway, I think in terms of quick wins, like, just where are you running ads? Focus there and like start the influencer strategy there. But speaking of quick wins, if we're talking about, hey, somebody's watching us, we're 50 minutes in, they're deep at this point. What like, if what's the takeaway here? What's like, okay, if you want to go execute on something today and you want to execute on it,
I'll give you
what do you think the quick wins are?
I'll give you a great one.
Okay.
Every time you go to the bathroom, just DM 5 influencers.
I mean, you're probably wasting time on there anyway,
You should. I'm dead serious. This comes from experience as well. I would outreach to 5 influencers every single time. Use that Instagram drop-down arrow, copy, paste, same message. Change their first name though, obviously. On DMs and then emails too. Like you're gonna eventually run into privacy restrictions depending on how many times you go to the bathroom in a day. But if you shoot them an email, you're never gonna run into those restrictions, and the outreach message doesn't really change at that point. So I think that's super easy, super practical. Hit that drop down arrow, focus on micro influencers, less than 150K of following. Offer to send them the product if you have cogs that can afford it. I would say if you have cogs under $100, I would do this. And you're going to be surprised on what content gets posted for free and how many influencers are actually interested in your product. And so
nice. That's dude. Yep. Nice. Easy. Quick win. The game's simple.
Bathroom break strategy.
The bathroom break strategy. You need a better name for it though. You're supposed to name your strategies like super cool.
The number 2 strategy?
The number 2. The number 2.
I got a giggle. I got a giggle out of you.
It did, yeah. I mean, it could be a number 1 if you're female, I guess.
That's true.
I feel like my wife just goes into the bathroom like whenever she needs a break from kids, Doesn't matter. I don't think she even needs to go.
That could be that too. Break from kids strategy.
Break from kids strategy. Yeah. Cool. So last thing before we head out here. Q4, it's here. We're 6 days into it, right? Yeah. I had to look at the date. 6 days into it. Anything Q4 specific, or is it just like, no, just like stay consistent with this? I've seen some of the threads that you post on Twitter. We'll link up your Twitter. Some of the threads you post on Twitter do have some kind of like nuanced differences for how you would execute for different kinds of brands and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Anything Q4 specific that you think, hey, if you've already got some momentum and you're a little bit past the number 2 strategy, let's here, maybe try and mix this in.
Right now, Q4 influencer rates are going to start getting incredibly hiked if they're not already. Because they know they're going to get outreach to, and people are going to try to take advantage of BFCM and holiday, Christmas, all that stuff. So I would seed people right away, and then leverage that content in time for BFCM. So it's just a ways that I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but you're going to try to you're going to alleviate and be cheaper than pay for post.
Yep. Front load your seeding efforts, basically.
Yep.
in
And
Q4.
then if you are going to pay, then I think YouTube makes sense.
Yeah.
Just kind of like an evergreen type of channel. I just posted that thread today about like winning on an SEO basis, on an organic basis. Like it's going to be way, way more expensive. Just FYI, people.
It is, yeah. And
but
it's interesting.
Shorts is interesting, like to explore. So
yeah, because they still live forever too, right? And yeah, it is interesting when like coming from the creator side on YouTube and having, you know, some sponsorship and stuff like that.
No big deal.
I do, you know, even if I'm taking the wrong spot, I still got the sponsor, at least today. You know, maybe not after this. Maybe I got an email in my inbox right now, but I think, you know, I think about it a little bit differently. I kind of think about things on like a CPM basis just because I'm a media buyer, right? And I try and make it like really worthwhile for my sponsors and stuff like that. But that there is consideration for that with any YouTube creator that like this lives forever. Like, I mean, for example, we have our Purple Mattress episode that we shot 3 months ago. We interviewed the original like marketing team for Purple. It just like it had died down like all episodes do, and then now it's just like this week like revamped. I don't know. So YouTube did something at their algorithm.
I shared it.
Yeah, that's what it was. Cody shared it, and it's got 200,000 views in the last day. And
you're welcome.
Yep. Thank you. Yes. Give me those YouTube monies. But yeah, I mean there is a consideration for that. So yeah, good call out. If you're going to pay, go to YouTube. All right, moving through here, the parting shot. I'm gonna call an audible, and I'm not gonna do the parting shot. I'm gonna do an analogy. Let's do a sports analogy. This is Modern Commerce. We do a lot of sports analogies for marketing and business here. So I'm sure you've got. I'm hoping you have some up your sleeve. You were a basketball player. You played hoops in college. Is there a sports analogy for business or marketing that you find useful, that you use a lot, or that you just like, I don't know, or I guess it could be something you learned in sports if you're like really struggling for an analogy?
I mean, I think the one, I don't even know if it's directly at sports, but I mean, I guess you could say shoot your shot, like next play. Like next play was something that was preached to me all throughout sports. It's just like, if you have a bad play, next play. Like, and basketball is constantly changing. Next play, turnover, next play, great play, next play. Like, so I think that pairs well with business owners is next play. Like, and if something doesn't work, you learn from it. If it did work, you try to iterate off of that too. Yeah. But
no, and you know, I think it's funny. I'll hit one too, and I'll go basketball as well. I don't know if you listen to JJ Redick's pod. I don't know if you really get into basketball much, but JJ Redick has a podcast, one of the bigger ones of NBA players. And like, I think in like one of his first episodes with Dame, he talked about how he's like, there's only like 5 offensive actions we run in the NBA. Every team runs like 5 offensive actions, and that's about it. And it like, which is surprising for some like a casual fan that like, no, they all do the same thing. They all know what they're going to do. Yeah. And he's like, and then it's just whether you make your shots or not, right? Like whoever makes their shots that night wins. And I think that like when you hear the whole strategy, it's like, look, it's not complicated. Outreach to people, ask them if they want product. The ones who post it, take that, run it as ads, and then, you know, further the relationship with them. It's not hard. It's just doing the work every day. And it's same thing in the NBA. It's like, just run the actions, execute them right? Like if there's this double drag out action that the Warriors run to Steph, and like every team knows it's coming, but he scores off it like 8-10 times a game, right? Like it doesn't matter if you know it's coming, you still have to like cover that. You still have to play defense against it, right? So execute. The same thing. If you just execute well, it will work. Like the law of averages will work out for you, right? If you're a 45% 3-point shooter, the law of averages will come back, even if you miss 15 shots in a row. So if people aren't replying to you, just the law of averages will come back. There you go, bro. Cool. I have like a sales call right now. So like, how long are we going right now? Yeah, we're out. So thanks everybody for watching. Drop your comments below. Tell us what questions you have about influencer marketing. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon. And until next time, we will see you. And here goes that same pencil ad that you guys saw before. Peace.
Deuces.
Casey, you are an absolute beast right now. You're churning out so many creatives across multiple brands. What is it that is so hard about producing such a high volume of creatives? Why can't more brands do it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would say if you're doing it the right way, of course, you should be always analyzing your past ads, the things you've already churned out, your most recent test group that you've put out. And that should inform your next round of creation, not just go all willy-nilly about it. So I would say that's why it's difficult to speed up that process, is because it's always kind of a two-pronged approach of analyzing and creation, really.
So how is it that you are able to do that across like 12 to 15 accounts?
Yeah, I mean, it does get pretty wild, but honestly, when I use Pencil, it's not as bad. Pencil is a tool that I use. It's got AI that'll help determine what my best ads are. It'll even break it down into the best elements of those ads. And in that platform, it'll automatically generate new ads for me to launch, and I can push them live straight from the platform into Facebook, IG. It also works great for other platforms as well, like TikTok, whatever you're on, really. If you sound like me and you're always in the weeds with your creatives, use our promo code. Go to trypencil.com, use promo code ModCom15. You'll save 15% off on any paid plan. One more time, that's trypencil.com, ModCom15. Save 15% off any paid plan they have there. And back to the show.